then like I guess were they treated differently from the
Got a moonlight. 0 hours contract. I can not deliver just as good as
Yeah, no, it's
So we are now eventually in Gagauzia. There are a lot of ways why it's different from the area you have been this morning. About Gagauz people, so we are, and I'm saying we because I'm from Gagauzia. In Gagauzia there are two main ethnic groups, Gagauz people and eventually Bulgarians. So I'm from the Bulgarian minority. We are all refugees from Russian Ottoman War, which was happening all during 18th century and the beginning of 19th century. So those two wars in the first half of the 19th century were leading to the fact that Russia fighting in Balkans with Ottoman Empire was promoting this idea that we are all Christians, we are all Slavic nations, and then Russia will give us the shelter eventually. So it was a special amendment, the article in the peace agreement between Russia and Ottoman Empire, which was allowing the Balkan people, first of all Bulgarians, to run. So within, as a result of first Russian-Ottoman War in 86-1812 and the next one 28-29, here we're moving about 300,000 refugees from Bulgaria because Russia was promising them to give them freedom and so on. Back then Bulgaria was part of Ottoman Empire for more than 500 years, and of course Bulgarian people who were fed up with Ottoman presence were deciding eventually to run. Here Russians gave them the southern land, and if you notice today driving is quite hot, it's quite dry. Why? Because this area naturally it's a steep area which is coming from Mongolia. Check out on Google Maps, you will see how yellowish it's from Mongolia towards the Kazakhstan, all this area towards Moldova and eventually Black Sea. And that's why this area was poorly populated, because the lack of water, all the lakes you have seen around, they are artificial lakes. That's why this area, poorly populated by Tatars, was by Russian Tatars were removed from here to Crimea, and this area was populated by us, Bulgarians and Gagauz people. This was smart enough decision to populate separately settlements for Bulgarians and for Gagauz. Today, Moldova is having 32 districts. We have plus the autonomous Gagauzian territory and the territory of Transnistria you have here. There are three stars. Three stars are symbolizing the three towns. Vulkanesh town, Chedrlunga, the one we crossed today, and this is Komrat.
There's a ton of bees around here.
Well, these are off, but I'm quite sure they're okay.
It kind of tastes salty.
I mean, it's quite a dry area, so.
And were these all found in the local area?
Yes, especially digging this thing, remember?
Oh, they were found right there near the well.
Текста здесь для этих нет, но самый старинный текст 300 год. Хан Нагаев, да? Можете показать?
These two coins recovered in the local village were issued in, what year did you say, 1000?
1290.
1290, during the reign of Nogai Han, who is depicted right here. And you can also see in this display the legend of the Grey Wolf, which which was on the original flag of Gagauzia.
Yeah.
The gray wolf. The gray wolf.
It's a big wolf.
And Turkey has been supporting Gagauzia. You can see the stadiums, sports arenas. They've sponsored different sports teams, the Turkish Olympic Committee.
So she's saying that this is a cup of the founder of the museum.
So this is one of the museum's founders, the history lover and sportsman. You can see here the club, the JSC Sport Club Sheriff, sponsored by the Sheriff sort of organization. And those cups that we saw were actually to commemorate his crossing. He was in his 50s when he did this, the Bosphorus, from Turkey all the way down to Europe. And I'm shocked at how good of a swimmer this man was. This is the time that he made that journey.
It's holy water. With a holy flash.
Does anyone still call it that? My dad does.
What flash?
Yeah.
Did we miss the sentence on what this is?
Sorry.
Did he explain what this is?
Oh yes. This was put here in 89.
If you're done with the pictures, we go down.
Right. Have you taken both of yours yet?
Maybe. Ask him.
Yeah, it was a bumpy ride. Так, щенина стрела.
Well, I want to visit the thing twice. I always did.
Yeah, there's the Turkish flag up there. And in the shadow of the display on repressions that took place, you have this display showing the deaths from hunger that happened in 1946. Although they were reported, in this village and all throughout the region that it wasn't from hunger, but rather it was from things like dystrophy, lack of vitamins, dehydration. You can see most of these are dated to 1946, and the curator told us that about 600 to 800 people in this small, sleepy village of Avdarma died from causes like this. So it was a famine sweeping this region of the Soviet Union. And next to the death certificates, we have documents that are demanding, in the middle of that famine, letters from Moscow demanding more grain, more milk, just more produce in the middle of a famine, which is a huge contributing factor. The same was true in Ukraine and Belarus and Kazakhstan. It was forced requisitions, and that only exacerbated the famine even more. And over here are those death certificates listing things like dystrophy and dehydration when it was in fact hunger that killed 600 to 800 people just in this small village. And then another fact to point out about the man that helped to found this museum is that a lot of museums in these areas wouldn't talk about the repressions, about the gulags, about deportations to Siberia, and this museum shows it. The museum's curator told us that about half of the people who were deported would return home. The other half either died, or many of them married locals. If they were living in Siberia for 5 or 10 years, you can imagine a lot of them would just choose to live there. You can see scenes from Siberia here. And in the woods here, it looks like 1954. And these monuments in Avdarma, you've got the Crimean War, 1853 to 1856, the Russo-Turkish War, 1877 to 78, and the Russo-Japanese War, with some related conflicts underneath. And this entire section in the back of the cemetery is dedicated to the victims of the typhus epidemic from 1941 to, I'm looking at graves next to me, 1943. And on the opposite end of the back of the cemetery, a monument to the victims from this village. Again, this is all just this village, who died from the famine of 1946 to 1947. And the names of those famine victims stretch all along the back wall here. And this is one of the more sad displays in the museum in Avdarma. It is a memorial to Alexander Berger, who was a soldier, an Austrian soldier in the German army in World War II. You can see his unit up here. Well, by 14 May 1944, the Germans were retreating in front of the Soviet army and making their way back, while the higher command had ordered locals to be shot. Well, Alexander Berger was protesting this and said, why don't we just leave without shooting the locals? And for this, he was shot and is recently memorialized in this village with his own monument for trying to protect the people. And 70 years later, in 2014, his 2 sons came through to see where their father had been executed. And you can see here some of his materials.
Everybody around you is speaking Russian. This is not Chisinau anymore, where every second in Chisinau is native Russian speaking. Here I think it's almost 100% are native Russian speaking. Of course, going home they are either Gagauz, or they are Moldovan, or they are Bulgarian. They are different ethnic groups, but Russian language is the main language eventually here. So between First and Second World War, we were part of Romania. That was quite unpleasant period for the locals, they say. And the next period, the longest one, was the Soviet period from 1944 to 1991. We've been part of the Soviet Union. Whatever you're looking at, and me as a tour guide, I should admit that Comrade is not Tiraspol anymore. There is nothing visual you can say, well, that's Gagauzia. No. The only thing is, you see behind me, the here local three languages eventually, the Moldovan, Russian and Gagauz language. If you ask me from linguistic point of view, Gagauz is very, very close to Turkish. That's why we have some Turkish tourists who are feeling here very easy and relaxed, because they can quite easy understand each other with Gagauz people. And tomorrow driving especially, you will see a lot of projects here are funded by Turkey. What is it? Famous leaders
I think he looks very well fed. Building where there are 5 floors.
Oh, right, okay, the standard.
The standard which you build in Slovenia.
Yeah, okay.
They sell a bunch of weird stuff. I mean, not that great, a bunch of modern stuff.
So he comes up.
They can follow up.
I think Tamsin's worried she's involved in some way.
No, I'm not worried at all. Nobody wants to marry me.
No.
There's a reason I'm doing my own Portuguese passport.
I think the crows are eating here must be a field of sunflowers.
Hello!
This is the monument in Avdarma. It is listed in 3 languages. The first settlers of the village came in 1769. And that was after it was depopulated of Tatars, I believe.
Если скажете, что вам желательно быть сейчас на обеде, вообще не проблема.
Ничего страшного, у нас не лимитированное время.
Inside the museum at Avdarma, you've got these 3 panels of memorials for local veterans who served in the wars. The First World War, under the Tsar, and all of these are local veterans. Second World War, and what's interesting about this is the Soviet Union and their monuments almost always would show 41 to 45 for the Second World War, but the local historian who helped fund this museum, he understands history as it beginning with the invasion of Poland in 1939, and you can see many men from this village served in World War II. Over here you've got a very interesting display too. I was not aware that many people from Russia served in Vietnam, but you actually see a couple of men from this village who served in the Vietnam conflict, in Chernobyl, and in Afghanistan. Adjacent to the war memorial, you have a display of local villagers who had earned medals for different works with the Communist Party or on the kolkhoz, the collective farms. This man, the museum curator pointed out for me, was awarded the highest award that a civilian could get in the Soviet Union, the Medal of Lenin. And he ran a collective farm that produced more liters of milk than any other in the Soviet Union. And in this display case right here, you've got some documents dating back to the Romanian occupation of Bessarabia between the two world wars. Here is a certificate of birth, of marriage, and of death. And it's all written in Latin-based script in Romanian. Now up here, you've got the same language, but it's written in Cyrillic during the Soviet period. This is, I believe, the Moldovan language. So it's the same as Romanian, but written in Cyrillic script. You can hear it spoken, but according to some I've met, it's not really shown anymore in printed form, at least not here. So this village was first mentioned in 1563 as a settlement for the Tatars, and you can see here the sort of the old marble spring we saw earlier, but there was a legend that said that there were pears, or a pear tree right next to that spring, and you can see those right here. It's sort of become a symbol of the village. And if we sort of pan over here, you can actually see the reconstruction of that spring. And when they were building the new spring on the edge of the lake outside of town in the little valley, they found quite a few old Tatar coins, which I think is really, really interesting to see the bygone days of Gagauzia.
The sheriff who's been changing money is also having the grain siler, and maybe you see it's round cylinders over there.
Oh yeah?
Right behind the two poles in front of you.
Okay, yeah.
Right through it. Right through the tube.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, which means that the portal is a bit right.
Oh.
Yeah, but yeah. I'm eating every day, so. Oh, of this?
No, no, just Wait, no, the Russians were no. The Ottomans were on this side. Russians.
No,
were
Russians. That was what.
Oh.
This one. You've been there?
Yeah. No, we have
No,
not.
we didn't go there.
So it's the same.
That's the memorial.
That's the memorial.
That's the monastery we went. And the memorial, and then.
Interesting. It's interesting to see like the factories of.
Yeah.
Like you can see the chimneys
Oh, definitely.
from afar.
Магазин. А теперь вот уже на этом месте музей.
She's saying that this, usually the Gagauz houses are having the cellar, of course, because on the top is quite hot, as you see today, and the cellar was needed to keep the pickled vegetables. Mostly they've been stored here. That part is mostly for keeping the wine. Wine for us is a big deal. That's why Moldova is very famous from the wine industry, because accessibility and climate is perfect to grow grapes, and eventually, of course, part of them are eating, part of them are for the wine. She's saying that this cellar particularly is from 1915, at least, we know it for sure, and the guy who was owning the cellar and the house above it, because not a museum. Museum is a new Soviet construction, maybe from 60s, a classical one. But before the house existing here was eventually destroyed, the guy the owner ran to Romania, because in 1940, when the communists were coming, things were expropriated, so he knew that nothing good is coming, and he was running to Romania. So this space, his space, was eventually turned to the museum on the top, and this is original cellar.